Hi Adam, thanks so much for coming in today.
Thank
You
you.
found the place all right?
Yeah, I did, and I was up at a car park down the street, which, considering the Brisbane traffic these
Mm-hmm.
days, it was a rarity. So yeah, I was thankful to be here and on time, and thanks for having me at such short notice. I know you're a busy man, so thank you for letting me have this appointment.
Yeah, no worries at all. It is lovely to meet you. My name's Jacob and I'm a clinical psychologist.
Mhm.
And just to give you a bit of overview around what we're going to be covering today,
Yeah.
I'll just be getting to know you.
Mhm.
This is just, a get to know you intake interview. So I'll be asking questions about your
Yeah,
past,
for
your
sure.
background,
Yeah.
just to get a better understanding about who you are as a
Mhm.
person,
Mhm.
things that you've experienced, as well as just we'll be talking about what's brought you in here today
Yeah.
and just diving into that as well. So
Yeah. Perfect.
yeah, just before we get into that area, I've just got to cover some things about confidentiality and
Mhm.
the layout for the session. Is that all right?
Yeah. Yeah. Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So confidentiality, this whatever we say or whatever we talk
Mhm.
about in this session will just be kept between you and I.
Yeah.
So that means that it'll be a safe space and a place where you can really feel free to talk. There are though some exceptions where the confidentiality will have to be breached.
Yeah. Understand.
And those are just if you something that you share in the session is about you causing harm to yourself or
Mm.
other people. I will have to raise that with the relevant
Mhm.
authorities, as well as if something that you share is illegal or it's against the law, I will have to tell the appropriate people as well. Is that all good with you?
That's fine. Yeah.
And the last one as well is if my notes or from this session or what we've talked
Mhm.
about is subpoenaed by the court, so if they require me to hand that over, I will have to do that as
Yeah.
well.
I understand that. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. As well, I'll be recording this session, so that's just for me. That's so
Mhm.
I give you the best service possible, so that I can look over, what we've talked about today.
Mhm.
And making sure that I've got everything, and so for future sessions, I've got a
Yeah.
really full understanding.
I
And I
understand.
don't forget anything.
Yeah, that's
So
fine. Yeah.
lovely. As well as that, as well for my memory, I'll be writing notes, and I
Mhm.
hope that's okay with you. And that's just
Yep.
so that I can keep track of what we talk about.
Yeah, perfect.
Lovely. As
Yeah.
well, we'll just be jumping around maybe a little
Mhm.
bit today. If it might feel like it's a bit all over the place, just that so I get a really broad understanding about who you are and have an understanding about what we're
Yeah.
going to do going forwards as well.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, perfect.
is that all good
Yeah,
with
that's
you?
fine. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's jump into it.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, would you be able to just share a little bit about what's brought you in here today?
Yeah, well, I think probably the last 6 weeks, I've definitely sort of had really low mood, um,
Mm.
and sort of low mood and feelings of worthlessness and um, yeah, I just feel like my life's sort of spiraling out of control, and sometimes I just feel like it's just like this burden. It's like I sometimes I just want to lay in bed and don't want to get out, and I'm not motivated to do anything. And I say that, but I do put a brave face on. Like I still go to work and put my mask on and and try the best I can. But yeah, sort of things I used to do and get out and about, and I was quite social with my friend group and do social activities. I just found myself sort of withdrawing and just just not be myself. And just with the low mood, just rumination and low self worth, probably self esteem is taking a bit of a hit in recent weeks. It's not me. I mean, like that.
Okay.
Those things I'm saying, as I'm saying them, I'm realizing like that's not me. Like and hence why I'm here to talk to you. Like I want to go back to my old self. I want to be happy. I want to go out. I want to be motivated. I want to be the best person I can for not only myself but for my team at work. And so just feeling really down at the moment.
Okay. So this low mood that you've
Mm.
told me about, this feeling of being down and out of touch of who you really are, it sounds like it is like influencing quite a few different aspects of your life.
Yeah, it is. It's everything from work, my social connections, and I've got some really good supportive mates, and a couple of I've opened up to, and even like this things like sleep's been affected. That has a knock-on effect for my work, and I'm getting through it, but like I'm sort of hiding myself from others, and even with the social aspect, like I'm not getting out and about like I used to. I'm scanning calls from mates, and people are saying, "Come out and do this, that," and sometimes I just want to sit in bed and cry. And that's
Okay.
not me. I want to get back to my old self.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah, there are these aspects that you've talked about, and you even at the start you mentioned about these thoughts that are going through your head and
Mm.
that
Mm.
are causing you to want to withdraw away from these social aspects. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just want to say really great job for coming in today, and it is a
Yeah,
really big
thanks.
step, and it's not easy to talk to someone about this,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there is a lot that we can do
Mm.
as far as work through this together and
Yeah.
going forward. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Brilliant. Mm.
So now you've explained a little bit around this background, and
Mm.
we will get into that in a bit more
Yeah.
detail shortly.
Mm.
But just to get a real understanding around, maybe your background
Mhm.
and your family relationships before we dive into the areas
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
you mentioned your social relationships with your mates,
Mhm.
your workplace, and as well as maybe other things that are affected as your sleep. So
Yeah. Yeah.
if you could just share a little bit about
Yeah.
your background, that'd be great.
Yeah. So I guess for background, like I was born here in Brisbane. Um, Mum and dad still together. We're married for 40 years. I'm one of three siblings. I've got a younger brother and a younger sister.
Okay.
They're in a household, like mum and dad still together, but it wasn't really a loving household. It was a clinical household, and that was because my mum was the pillar for the family. And my dad suffered bouts of depression, throughout his life, and hence why mum was the stoic one who kept us all together. And there was times that dad just couldn't get out of bed because of his illness, and I respect that and acknowledge that. And at the time growing up, I didn't really know much about it, but I do now. But yeah, it was when I say clinical, like we weren't a very lovey-dovey sort of family. There was no I love yous or affection given, and ironically that's what I crave now. And I've always wanted to feel love and have words of affirmation and be told that I'm loved and warranted and needed. And then work-wise, I like my workplace. I'm a project manager for a mining company, and I really enjoy the people I work with. I find the last 6 weeks they're not getting the best of me. I'm putting a heavy mask on, and I try, but I dare say they're picking up that there's something a bit amiss there for me, because normally I'm the one sort of making decisions and charging ahead and being really confident, where I've sort of been a bit drawn and less engaging, and I'm not really leading my team the way I want to lead my team.
Yeah.
So, my siblings, I've got a great relationship with them. And I'm close, but I haven't sort of shared with them what I'm going through. But they're still close, and I still love them dearly.
Okay. Yeah, well, you've shared a little bit about your family as well as how those aspects of impact work as well. Your current, low mood that you're experiencing. I'm just really interested. Would you be able to tell me more about this relationship between your parents, their relationship, and potentially how that's impacted you?
Yeah. Well, it was a very sterile relationship, and probably from their generation, and also, like I said, mum having to do everything and being stoic and running the house, and dad was there but not there through his mental illness. And I think growing up, in reflection, I guess in my personality, I sort of missed out on the warmth and embrace and and being told I'm loved. And then that sort of had a knock-on effect to my other relationships, and I've just gone through a bad breakup. I want to say bad with Emicule, but it really hurt me. And then in the past, I've had fleeting relationships as a youngster, but one thing I've had issues with is always connecting with the opposite sex, with females. And I'm ever since I was young, I was scared with them. I didn't really know how to engage, and I was scared of being pushed away. And I guess I didn't know if I was worthy enough to be loved because it was never really shown to me, and the modelling is just always very clinical. So, and I did have some bad experiences as a youngster with my first ever sort of girlfriend, and I said then, it was just been very fleeting, and then I just come out of a long-term relationship, which for me is now sort of brought me to the situation where I am now, where I low mood and just sense of worthlessness, and I just sort of keep thinking about areas in that relationship which I could have done better, or just overanalyzing, overthinking. Was it me? Was it how did I ruin that relationship? Where I just caught it rumination, and then it affects it. The knock-on effect is it then affects my sleep, and I just sort of it all compiles into one, and I'm really really critical of myself, and I sort of am scared if I'll ever find another girlfriend, or it was so hard for me to find her, and I was with her for 3 years, and I don't hold anything against her, like it was all amicable to break up, and I get it, but for me it just brings up emotions of the past and brings up questions, and I'm frightened of what I have to say it again and find another girlfriend. I just is it me? Am I even worthy to be loved? I don't know, and that weighs heavy on my mind and heart.
Okay. Yeah, you've talked about quite a bit there as far as your parents, like their relationship, that you didn't quite receive the love that you probably wanted or were craving for in that moment, and how that's now led and followed on into other relationships. You mentioned as well one of your first relationships, and how that impacted maybe some of the self-talk that you're now experiencing around that worthlessness. But it really seems that this breakup in the past couple months with your long-term girlfriend is something that has maybe led to this feeling, and is maybe quite a big factor in how you're feeling now.
Yeah, it really is. And it just brings up a lot of bad memories from, and you're right, like wanting to be loved and not getting it, or receiving it the way I sort of wanted to receive it in the household. And my first ever girlfriend, and it was this young love, but she said some really hurtful, mean things to me, which, and you can brush off saying young love, but for me, and I'm probably a bit sensitive, I've carried with me for a long time.
Yeah.
And I always...
And that's been leading just to those thoughts and to those... So
yeah,
what she said with you is really sat and waited.
Yeah, or maybe she's right. Maybe I'm unlovable, and maybe I am, worthless and useless, and, undeserving of love, and so those sort of feelings come through, and, obviously make me sad, and I sort of then question myself, and then my mood just went straight downhill, and then after the breakup, it was just, back to square one, and, you start thinking and overanalyzing, and, having negative self-talk, and that's the thing, like, I talk to my mates about it, and even they say, like, you get over it and come out, and I get that, and I do want to, like, I'm here because I want to be healthy, I want to be mentally healthy, and I want to get back to my own self, having confidence, but just right now when it's so raw, I'm hurting, and it's sort of impacting definitely my social aspect, obviously my own mental health and the way I think about things, and the sleep's getting affected. And I'm sort of disengaging to the things that I know I should be doing. I know I should be going out with my friends. And for me, it's at the moment, I just sort of head in the sand, want to lay in bed, and I'm just stewing over, all the negative things that have been told against me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Sounds like it's quite kind of getting more and more, and it's just gathering into a point now where you have seen the need to seek help and to 100%. Talk to someone about that. It's the impact on your sleep especially is something that keeps coming up, and I'm just really interested because you've talked about those negative thoughts and how that's impacting you now, and how they maybe were tied back to either your parents
Mhm.
and that, like, the relationship with them, as well as one of your first relationships. Yeah, I'm really interested in how you've managed that over time, and that's affecting your confidence at this point. But you have been able to
Yeah.
to gain confidence at different sections. You described yourself as someone who was really outgoing and quite a leader
Yeah.
in your workplace. But
Yeah.
yeah, could you please just like maybe just talk a little bit more about how you've managed those thoughts and those feelings in the
Yeah.
past?
I think, to be honest, my ex-girlfriend was a pillar of strength. It was the first time I've had someone who knew me and I could open up to and sort of show me love
Okay.
and what it is to be loved and so forth. So my confidence grew because of her. Now, I know we'll always be friends, but it just the thought of, obviously losing her and not having her in the house and so forth, but she really sort of opened my eyes up and gave me things which I sort of yearned for as a young man in my family and in the family household. And even like it's also a network, my friends' network as well. I get confidence and strength through them, and they know who I am, and they're accepting of me, warts and all. But just I think it's very it's sort of, I feel sort of shame in saying this, but like it's just when you don't receive the love that you want, and then you sort of gets reinforced with the first couple of girlfriends you have. I sort of hid away until I found a girl who I thought was the right one. She's a lovely person. She built me up, so I sort of my confidence grew, and and I'm scared in this thing. I'm scared I won't find somebody else who will get me and provide me love, and the care and kindness that I've had with her. And then the thoughts of like maybe it is me. Maybe it's all me and I'm useless, and maybe I'm destined not to have a romantic partner, and I'm a loser and worthless and stuff. But and even saying that, like I know it's not real. I'm just I'm just just those thoughts come back, and I know I've got to break that cycle. It's just very raw at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. So it seems to me that those thoughts have a lot of power, and it has been impacting. And even where you felt like you were yourself and that confidence, but that was found mostly in your girlfriend, your ex-girlfriend, and a little bit in your friendships and your social circle as well. But now that your girlfriend you're no longer together, that it really hit quite hard.
Yeah, he had. Oh, just the fear of not being loved and not having someone, and maybe that the worthlessness. It just hit home, and being scared, all the above. Ties in with the low mood and sadness. You start sort of questioning whether maybe it's me, maybe it's maybe I am unlovable or undeserving to have a partner, and that's just my perception of it. And once again, like I'm just in a rut. I'm in a rut at the moment.
Yeah, I'd really like to just dive into those thoughts and maybe getting a bit of context around when they happen and how severe they are in the moment.
Yeah.
Just before we do that, I'd just love to get a little bit of background information.
Yeah.
You said that like some of your coping strategies for working against those thoughts that you've had in the past was your social relationships. I'm just wondering, have you had, are there any other ways, maybe using substances or that you've used to deal with, those feelings in the past?
Yeah, well, I've never been medicated at all, but when I was a teenager though, I did, like, maybe like a lot of teenagers, like binge drink and use drinks, like alcohol, as a masking agent. I guess when I say that, it's just, go to parties and I say, I've never been comfortable around girls, so have a drink and it's sort of, that's courage and I can talk and, and sort of, and so forth. So I use that, I guess, as a coping sort of mechanism or skill set that, inhibition gets lowered and so I can actually talk and so forth. And then I still I've got great mates, so around them they help me instill confidence in me and and they're are really steadfast in my life. We've got some wonderful mates, and like I said, then having a wonderful relationship who got me, accepted me, and I guess showed me what like love was about. Yeah.
So it's really a great factor in your life.
Yeah.
And just you said you used alcohol in the past. Currently,
No, I
at the
don't
moment you're using it?
drink. No.
Okay. And just medically as well, have you mentioned that your dad had depression.
Yeah.
Have you had any diagnoses in the
No,
past?
I haven't. No.
And any
No.
interactions with a psychologist before?
No, I've never seen a psychologist. This is the first time.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks as well for coming in and talking about that.
So,
Now to just get a bit more of an understanding on that low mood and just to get some context around, are there any triggers or any moments where it's maybe more extreme for you?
I think it comes down to night time. Going home to an empty house, and I still got her photos up, and then I jump into bed and the rumination, thinking about it, and the old, the words that were used against me when I was a teenager sort of come through with my first girlfriend, and in a big picture. So that's probably the biggest trigger for me.
Okay. And how long do these feelings usually last, and you are in this low mood?
Probably like 5 out of 7, like 5 nights out of 7 days. I would have difficulty getting to sleep, and I've tried journaling a little bit, and it helps a wee bit to get it flushed out, but normally like it will take me a good 3 hours to get to sleep, and then the knock-on effect, obviously I wake up tired and go to work, and just the dread. But like I said, I put a brave face on, but I think people will be able to tell that I'm not my usual self at the moment.
Okay, and so it's this lying in bed, this rumination when you sleep, and it really impacts that
It
area.
does, yeah.
And that has that flow-on effect into your workspace as well.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Okay, And you mentioned as well at the start, it's been the past, did you say 6 months since you've had that breakup?
Oh no, it was 7 weeks ago, and the last 6 weeks this has been a spiral down for me.
Okay, so it is quite recent.
Quite raw, it's quite raw.
Yeah, and it's led to that quite intense feelings.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, Adam, just as we go into just closing up and finishing up for the session, I just want to thank you for what you've shared. I feel like I have a better understanding around who you are and maybe some of the things that have made you up as a person, your experiences. And there is hope going forwards. We will be able to address some of these things
thank you.
as we look into potential goals. I just want to put over you. Is there anything in particular you would like to work on and focus on when we have our sessions?
Probably sleep, just such like sleep and sleep hygiene, and like I said, a journal, little things just sort of calm my mind and be able to sleep, and then probably for me sort of overcoming my negative self-talk in the critic next session. I'd like to sort of work on that, and probably the biggest one though is setting goals for me of going out and socialising with my friends. I think that would definitely help me break this cycle if I went out and hung with my mates, went to the football, went to the movies.
Excellent. And there are many things that we can, and different processes we can go to improve your sleep hygiene and your sleep, and that's something we'll focus on. But I just want to ask a specific question around that social aspect. Is there anything that you can put your finger on, that like an event or anything coming up that you would really like to just, even work on to get yourself out there? And
well, I'm invited to go to a barbecue this coming Saturday, which I wasn't going to go to, but I think for me to get myself out of, and be around my friends, like I know once I'm there I'll be fine. And as I've said, I've got a couple of guys who sort of know my situation, and they've been telling me to come out and come along. So that's really a short goal for me. My goal is to get off my bum and go and be present and be around my friends. I think that will be healing for me, and it'll be a big step forward in getting me out of my shell and getting me out of this rut.
Okay. Well, it's really great that you're able to see that and look forward to that situation. And I want to just encourage you in that space as you try and work through it, and as we work through it together in future sessions. I'm really looking forward to it. So
Likewise.
thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. I appreciate it.